Hi everyone, I'm Tui Benjamin. I'm Head of Comms and Fundraising at the Brain Charity, and today we are going to do a little rundown through 2020, the year that was, and what we've been up to as a charity. I'm joined by my colleague Greg, who is in our fundraising team, and together we're just going to talk about some of the key events, fundraising challenges, and issues that we face as a charity, and some of the positives that have come out of this strange year as well.
It's very nice to be here in this virtual space with everyone again. I think one of the positives of 2020 was sort of learning for myself and with other people how to sort of navigate these virtual spaces. But before everything kicked off, in January of this year, we had our Burns Night, which has become a big fixture of our year. It's usually our first event of the year, and it's a really lovely, warm event where we celebrate the life and work of Robert Burns. And it's a chance for us to all get together after the festive period and having the centre shut down for a week or two. This year's Burns Night had a really nice feature, which was we had loads of people from our own community reading out their own poems, some of which were about their experiences with their neurological conditions. And some were just poems they had written as part of a poetry course that we'd had on at the charity from October the previous year. That wasn't the only event we managed to have this year in the physical building, though. Before everything sort of went virtual, we also had our Valentine's Day film night, which also saw the launch of our own brand of chocolate with lots of great punning names and also ingredients that I won't say it's the most healthiest snack in the world, but dark chocolate especially can have positive effects on our health, and we tried to include several ingredients in different chocolate bars that would also increase sort of your neurological functions and that kind of stuff, because that is the theme of our charity, I guess. So those were the first events before the lockdown.
So obviously we went into national lockdown on March 23rd. All Brain Charity staff were sent home to work from home, and our centre was sadly closed to the public. One thing that was slightly bittersweet that was completed shortly before the national lockdown was we actually finalised our changing places facility, which is a really fantastic, accessible, large, spacious toilet and changing room. It's got special features like a hoist, and it means that our building became the only sort of public building outside really large scale sports venues, so like the football stadiums in Liverpool, to have a facility of this kind. So it was really unique, and we managed to get some generous funding from the Wolfson Foundation to pay for that. But unfortunately, no one's been able to use it this year, which is really disappointing. You know, we finalised it just as we went into lockdown, but we're hoping that next year we can really shout about that and let people know that that facility is there. It's available to anyone who might be, you know, in Liverpool and in need of being able to use that. The next thing that we did as an organisation is, you know, like a lot of different charities and a lot of different businesses, we had to really quickly pivot to a new way of working. So we had to move all of our work and our activities online, and we chose to use Zoom, as did most of the rest of the world, to do that. So things like our coffee morning, that became a fortnightly virtual event, and one thing that was really lovely about that was we actually found that we had people visiting and taking part from all over the UK, from Newcastle, from Cornwall. It really opened us up to a wider audience than we necessarily would have had holding the event physically in our HQ in Liverpool. So that was really lovely. We ran other online courses and activities too, things like hat making, poetry, quiz night and bingo. And we actually also moved some of our standard services to Zoom too. So one of those was the Brain Changer Arts Project. This is a really interesting children's project that's funded by Children in Need, and it's for children with all forms of neurological condition. It basically combines physiotherapy with dance and occupational therapy with art and craft. So it's getting children those vital therapies that they need almost without them realizing that they're doing it, through stealth. So they're not thinking, oh, this is boring, I don't want to do my physio exercises. They're thinking, this is amazing, I get to learn a new dance routine, and they're actually doing something that's giving them therapeutic benefits. So Previously, that was taking place in schools in Merseyside. And what was actually, again, a real positive to come out of this year was that when we opened that up and made that happen via Zoom, we had children from all over the UK taking part, and we were really able to help benefit a wider amount of children than maybe we previously would have been. Alongside that, we had a food delivery service that we set up very quickly. This was a community support service that we started running pretty much as soon as the UK went into lockdown at the end of March. We knew that many of our service users were really, really vulnerable and were going to be shielding. And we were also hearing how difficult it was for people to be able to get spaces in queues online if they were trying to do their shopping, or they just might not be able to use online to do their food shop. So we really wanted to make sure that no one was going hungry with that, and that ran until July 31st. Over that period, we had 21 staff and volunteers working single-handedly to keep that going, and we delivered 1,104 food packs across Merseyside, which is, a huge achievement. And big shout out to all the staff that were involved in that, because, that was a really scary time back in March. No one really knew what this virus meant, and they were putting themselves on the front line. And they were key workers. They were going out and doing things for people that couldn't do it. So really big shout out to them. Another thing that we launched at the same time was a new phone befriending service, because while social isolation isn't a new issue for our clients, it's something that we've seen for many years. We knew that the pandemic was just going to make things so much worse, and particularly, some of our service users aren't as digital savvy as the average member of the population, and they might not have been able to use things like Zoom. So having access to a phone service where once a week they could get a phone call for up to an hour to talk about whatever they wanted, just a friendly voice at the end of the line, was hugely beneficial. And at one point we were doing more than 50 calls a week through that service. Another nice bit of news we had over the summer was our CEO, Nanette, who was on maternity leave. She gave birth to her daughter, Dorothy, who is a whopping £9.14. So big baby, and absolutely gorgeous. We've all been able to see her chubby cheeks on Zoom now, which has been lovely. And Nanette is going to be coming back in the new year.
Excellent. In September, of course, things sort of started to ease up as it had done over the summer in terms of lockdown restrictions, all that kind of stuff. But to try and keep our service users and our community as safe as possible, we kept the events we were planning for the autumn period virtual, for all sorts of reasons. The first event we had was our virtual Head Matters Day. Head Matters is usually one of our biggest and best events of the year, where we gather loads of organizations and loads of members of our community into our building. We have stalls where people can find out what each of these organizations can help them with. And we also have several talks and activities done by experts in their field, exploring loads of different sides of neurological conditions. That's usually in March as part of Brain Awareness Week. Obviously, we couldn't have it in March in our building, which is a massive shame, but it was a pleasure to have it virtually in September as a bit of a welcome to the new academic year, because some of our services run on the school year. It was an incredible event considering the size it was. It was the first event of that size we'd done virtually, and it was lovely to see people from all over the country, people who had sort of got connected with us through doing those sessions over Zoom and the coffee mornings previously in the year. And we also had the chance to see our new patron, Henry Priestman, who was in The Christians. And we saw his amazing musical performance that he started to do as part of the first lockdown. And he shared some memories with us and answered some of our questions about what it was like to be a musician, especially in lockdown, but also his life in general and why he decided to become a patron. We're very much looking forward to seeing him in real life next year, hopefully at one of our events, but it was definitely an amazing way to make that introduction to him as a member of our community. After that, we were involved in the Virtual Disability Awareness Day, which is usually held in July in Walton Hall Gardens, run by the Warrington Disability Partnership. It's an incredible day. We usually have a stall there so we can meet loads of different people who might need our services. This year, Walton Disability Partnership put together an incredible website which basically just had the same space that you usually visit, but in a virtual way, and you could walk around it as you normally would. It was absolutely mind-blowing. I remember like the day before they sent us the link so we could see what it would be like before it went live, and I was absolutely blown away, having been to it last year. Obviously it was a shame not to see people in real life, but it was much less cold than it had been the year before, to meet people at Warrington this year. I believe they're going to be keeping the virtual Disability Awareness Day, the link that they have, going for a whole year, as well as renewing it every year, as well as running it alongside their physical event, because it was just so amazing. Another event we had was our Halloween musical bingo, which is something that's becoming a bit of an annual fixture for us. We'd been doing bingo through the year, so we spiced it up and made it a musical one where we would play small clips of spooky Halloween related songs and seeing if people could guess them. To be honest, some of them I didn't even know existed, the songs, but lots of them were incredible, and it was a great night of fun.
So nice to be able to just look back over everything that's happened this year and think about, despite what a crazy year it's been, there have been some real positives. A couple of new projects that we launched this year, moving sort of into the autumn now. One was our Directions project. So that is an employment project. It's sort of spearheaded by the women's organisation, and it's a consortium, lots of different charities and organisations within the Liverpool City region. It's all focused around unemployment and getting people back into either employment, training, further education, work experience, volunteering, etc. Every charity that's part of that consortium has a different focus in terms of what they're bringing to the table to help people, on their journey back into work. And for us as a charity, we know that the biggest barrier for people with neurological conditions to getting a job is confidence. We see it times and time again, people that have so many skills, but they've had a diagnosis or something which has really knocked them. They feel like they've been set back, and it's just about walking through that journey with them, showing them what they're capable of, and giving them the confidence to then go on and try something new. Whether that's volunteering opportunities within our building, things like working in the Brain Food Cafe are absolutely great for boosting people's confidence because it's customer facing. So hopefully that is something we can bring back in the new year, which is when we're hoping to reopen the cafe. And also just, putting people through in touch with different services within our charity. So counselling, if people feel like they need a bit of extra mental health support just to work through maybe some of the thoughts and feelings and issues that they're having relating to work, or information from our info team about the practicalities of actually working with a diagnosis or a disability. So things like, what reasonable adaptations your employer has to make for you, like what are you entitled to really in the workplace. So that's something that's still ongoing, and actually you can sign up to that now on our website. If you search Directions Project, you'll find out where you can do that. Another really interesting project we had is Seeing Sound, which is also still ongoing at the moment. That is specifically for people with aphasia, which is a condition usually caused by stroke where it affects people's ability to process language and often their speech. So people with aphasia might find it quite difficult to speak. Their speech might be slower. And this is an art therapy project. So it's inviting people to create artwork in response to listening to different sounds from the British Library Sound Archive. Really, really fascinating stuff. Some of these sounds, haven't been played for decades. They've been in the archive, and ours are all focused around natural sounds and coastal sounds. So I heard that in the last session last week, one of the sounds that they listened to was the mating call of a male haddock, which is quite fascinating. And I would love to hear what that sounds like and see what the artwork that was created in response to that was. But yeah, really, really interesting creative project, which is going to be going on into the new year. If you have aphasia or care for someone that does and are interested in taking part in that, it's not too late at all. You can still sign up. Again, the details are on our website. It seems like a nice time to mention some of the support that we've had this year from some of our partners and our funders. So we've been really lucky to have been funded by several generous funders this year. The Henry Smith Charity, the Steve Morgan Foundation, and the National Lottery have all given us funding to continue doing what we do. In particular, some of the services that's focused on are employment and counselling, for reasons why I'll get to a little bit later in this chat, sort of looking ahead to what we think are going to be the key issues for our service users next year. We've also had some really good partnerships with other organisations. So we've had support from our legal sponsors, Fletcher Solicitors and Potter Rees Dolan, and some additional sponsorship from Virtual Blackburn Law as well. We've also had hospital partnerships. So we've been working in partnership with the Walton Centre, who we obviously have had a great relationship with for many years based on our history, to roll out a virtual support service. So the work that our staff would have been doing in the hospital obviously hasn't been able to happen in the same way this year because of COVID. So instead of them being sat in an office where patients can actually come and see them, they're at the end of an iPad so that they can really benefit from the support that we offer. And that's something that we've also rolled out to another trust as well, the Royal Aintree Hospital and soon to be Broad Green, who are now all part of one trust. So that's 4 hospitals really that we now are working with within Merseyside, which is something that we really are keen to expand further, because we know that catching people when they have potentially had that new and maybe quite traumatic diagnosis, or sudden condition, is really important, because it's then that they often have so many questions around not just the medical aspects, which the doctors can deal with quite easily and give them advice on, but just the more sort of social and community aspects about what actually is going to happen to me now when I leave hospital. And that's really where our staff step in and hold people's hands and walk them through that process. We're also pleased to still be in partnership with the Merseyside Neurological Alliance and the Disability Benefits Consortium. Through both of those groups, we've been able to campaign together with lots of other charities and just really make sure that some of the key issues for people with neurological conditions are being spoken about on a national scale in terms of policy. That's sort of bringing us quite nicely to December. So the last couple of things really this year are our Edible Wall project. So that is a crowdfunder which we launched in partnership with Farm Urban, another charity here in Liverpool who specialise in hydroponics, which is a method of food growing where it's soilless and it's vertical towers of lettuce, leafy greens and herbs. And what we wanted was to have an edible wall in the Brain Charities building. That would make us the first charity in the UK to have this, and it would basically not only just allow us to have fresh food, which we could bring into our cafe, which would be healthy for people to eat, but also just be a really good way to boost people's mental health and increase confidence and people making friends. There's lots of really interesting research around the benefits of gardening and being able to regularly see and be involved with green space and plants. So that's what we're really playing on with that. And there's a few days left of that crowdfunder. We're hoping to raise £15,000. If we don't raise the full amount via that, then we will be applying for additional grant funding next year so that we can hopefully make that a reality. And then the final thing to mention is, of course, Sixmas. So our first ever Christmas appeal, which is called Sixmas because it's raising awareness of the 1 in 6 people with neurological conditions and just how common they are. We have a target of £6,000, and as of today we are on £3,500, so we're doing really well, and we're confident that we'll smash that target by the end of December. We're asking people to fundraise for us by taking part in any 6 themed activity. So it can be from the comfort of your own home, it can be COVID safely outdoors, or to donate £6, £16, whatever you can afford, but something themed around the number 6.
What a jam-packed year it's been. I mean, considering that most of the staff haven't been in the building for most of the year, and also that we haven't been able to meet physically in the same way as we would normally do in a normal year. It's been a year of all sorts of exciting projects, including having 70% more referrals than we normally do. And I think the whole community at the Brain Charity have really risen to that challenge. And I think it's really important, if you've managed to stay to the end of this video where we've gone over lots of what we've done this year, I want to say thank you to you for giving the care and attention to us, and to let us share our successes and our obstacles with you over this year. I also think it's really important to show gratitude for all the people who have made this possible, all the staff and volunteers who have helped those people with food packages, with the online services, with all these projects that have been put on, the ones that have come to fruition this year and the ones that will come to fruition in the future. I want to thank all the people that have been part of the community for decades, and also all the people who have joined us this year as well. We as a charity are growing all the time, and obviously the sort of more people within our community, the more people we're connected with, the more people who are helping us and we're helping, the stronger our connection gets, and the more able we are to help people. So if you have not yet connected with us in a way you would like, it would be amazing to hear from you. And we're always grateful for any and all support people can provide us. If that's fundraising as part of our Sixmas campaign, or if that's becoming a volunteer maybe in the future. It's just been, in some ways, it's been a really, really difficult year for all sorts of people, but it's also really helped to show our strength and our ability to help each other and to be there for each other. And I definitely think it's been a year, for at least for me, to reflect personally how lucky I am and privileged to have all these people in my life who I can rely on for support with the work I do, but also know that that I have friends out there in my workplace. I know that's not necessarily true for everyone. Of course, 2020, we're going to build bigger and better in 2021. First of all, if you have any ideas, either for more things you'd like to see us put on our social media or on our YouTube channel, or maybe things that can be put in our center when it is safe for us to do so, it'd be amazing to hear from you. So please put it in the comment section on whatever social media or platform you're seeing this video on. But of course, we already have loads of amazing things planned for 2021. So Tui, to bring us into the new year, please let us know what we've got going on.
Well, we're coming into the new year with moving into 2021 with our website, which is absolutely amazing. We're really, really excited about. So we're having a new website. It's currently being designed, and I think everyone's going to love it. I hope so, because we do. It's specifically planned to be really, really accessible. So that was our starting point with every element of what we were doing, really. We wanted it to be something which would reflect the needs of our service users and would be really, really easy for them to use, you know, no sort of complex getting confused around long menus or strange links. It was just really, really straightforward. And I think, fingers crossed, we've cracked that. So yeah, keep an eye out. We will be announcing more details on that, and we can't wait for everyone to see it. In terms of going into the year, something that I mentioned briefly earlier around what our sort of key priorities are going to be as a charity. Obviously, we do have a 4-year strategy, which was done in January 2020, and there's longer term strategic aims there, but that was written before COVID happened and shook everything up for everyone. So aside from that, I think a few things that we know are going to be really, really difficult for people next year and where they're really going to need support. One is unemployment. Everyone's aware that there's a recession at the moment and that more people than ever are being made redundant. Unfortunately, often what we find is that people with neurological conditions can already be at the back of the queue when it comes to being able to get a job. And when they're suddenly thrust into a market where there's lots and lots of other people also in that pool looking for work, you know, it just makes things really difficult. So things like the Directions project and another new employment project, which we will hopefully be launching next year, will really, you know, be able to support people there to make sure that they have you know, they have the employment situation that they want. Long COVID is another thing that we think is going to impact our referral levels. At the moment, I think people are just starting to understand what long COVID actually means. There's been more and more publicity around the nature of, after having COVID, you can be left with these long-term symptoms, which often are neurological. I think people initially associated it purely with respiratory problems, but it's now becoming apparent that things like amnesia, anxiety, fatigue, there's lots of different elements which actually have a neurological impact too, unfortunately. So that is something that we're staying very aware of, because we want to make sure that, if we have people presenting to us that seem to have those long COVID symptoms, which can look like ME sort of symptoms, chronic fatigue syndrome, that type of thing, that we have plans in place to support them. And then the other big one is mental health. We have kept this video quite positive and upbeat, but as you said then, Greg, like, it has been a horribly difficult year for everyone, and like, we really appreciate that. And unfortunately, we have seen that firsthand. We have had service users coming to us in very distressed states and situations, and that's been really difficult. And we just want to know that we are doing the best we can by people, and ensuring that they have access to counselling as quickly as possible, and that they can get all the support that they need. So that is another area that I suspect we will be looking to boost as much as possible into 2021. Another exciting thing is that our Dementia Project, which previously was running in care homes, this year is going to go online too. So similar to the Brain Changer Arts project, but this is for elderly people living with dementia, people of all ages living with dementia and their carers. It's combining singing and speech therapy and dance and physiotherapy. It's all done to familiar music, and it's really, there's some absolutely fascinating research out there about the power of music for people living with dementia, how it can bring them back into themselves, how it can increase engagement. It's really interesting stuff. So this is quite pioneering, not seeing anyone else doing anything like this. We filmed some videos and they're going to be available as a 12-week package from January. So information on that will be on our website very shortly. Keep an eye out there. And the last thing is, in early January, we're looking forward to welcoming our CEO, Nanette, back from maternity leave. She's been off for the last 6 months. We've all missed her very much. So yeah, we can't wait for her to come back and be part of the family again, hopefully feeling refreshed, although not sure whether that will be the case, considering she's probably had many sleepless nights with her new daughter, Dorothy.
I hope you've all enjoyed this review of our year. I'm sure you can tell, it has been jam-packed. So just to reiterate, thank you so much for being involved in our year. We will see you in 2021, and I hope you have an amazing festive period. See you soon.